Howdy howdy, I'm Jihe, I'm a comic artist and writer, and for my second year of Artfight, I decided to make it even more of an ambitious undertaking than last year. The most extreme on Animal Planet. I wanted to at least equal the number of attacks I did last year, which was 7, while vastly improving their quality, and also I wanted to do the titular themed mass attack of drawing every character on Artfight with the same name. I'm going to go in order that I drew the attacks, so stick around for the middle if you want to know what name I chose. So, here were my Artfight improvement goals. Firstly, energy. I wanted dynamic poses. Even if they're just sitting there, I wanted to capture some energy. 2, shading. I didn't shade many of them from last year, so this year I wanted to shade every single one. 3, backgrounds. I wanted to draw like a proper background for each one. And lastly, no color picking, because I'm afraid of color theory. So, I won't lie, I was very much over the whole Artfight event after like 2 weeks. Plus, I was in the middle of working on my 50 Days Straight on Instagram video and an animatic for my zombie comic. Subscribe if you want to see those in the near future. Honestly, this Artfight had me questioning whether I want to do it again next year, but mostly it was that darn mass attack, which I will get to, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So I started off the month by attacking one of my best friends, Stormith. Last year I punched her fantasy OCs, so this year I decided to punch her Chosen Ones Academy OCs, particularly Saber and Tal, who are my favorites of the bunch because they're sci-fi characters. Saber and Tal get along especially well according to their Artfight connections, so I thought it'd be fun to draw them having a little movie night. So, right off the bat, I failed on the energy goal. I generally struggle with subtler poses more than I do with dynamic poses, for some reason. And while Tal was like supposed to look stiff because they just have like amazing posture, you know? I don't know, I just feel like the drawing came out kind of boring. I don't really love how it turned out. I tried a new line art strategy as well that I learned about in art class, where you do the outline of the figure first, fill in the outline in another layer, and then continue doing the line art to make flatting easier later. And it did make flatting easier, but it was also like weird to try to wrap my head around it. And I think it also hurt the dynamism of the poses, because I was like so focused on trying this new technique. So it's still a little weird for me. I think I'll keep trying just to see where I can get with it, but wouldn't give myself a pass on the energy goal. I hit the background goal. I drew my favorite piece of furniture to draw, the couch, and added in a bunch of random belongings that I think these two would have. Saber's an idol, so I gave him music-related trinkets, and Tal is a sci-fi astronaut, so I gave them a tablet and a space sippy cup? Whatever those big cups are called, I don't know what they're called. And also this leg warmer belongs to one of the other characters, Cleo, that lives in the dorm. Storm had mentioned once that she leaves her laundry lying around, so I thought it'd be fun to put that in. Since this was the first drawing where I banned myself from color picking off the references, I was kind of scared to get the colors wrong, but I don't think anything is like ridiculously off, and I'm gonna call that a win, you know? I did basic cell shading on this one with a little bit of soft shading, so I also checked the shading box. I did express to Storm that I was worried the colors were wrong, and they said it was fine. But, you know, sometimes I'm like, are you just being nice? I don't know, because they are very nice. My next attack was on another one of my besties, Pen Fairy, drawing her OCs Ella and my glasses king, Warren. I don't really remember why I started calling him that, but it's too late. I'm his loyal subject. But yeah, this is a great example of why I like when people put like hobbies and pets and stuff like that in Artfight bios. Because even though like I've known about Ella for a long time, I didn't know before Artfight this year that she had a pet rabbit and likes roller skating. And those turned out to be great prompts for this one. I kind of wish I could have gotten a little more energy in Ella's pose, like a better line of action, and a bit more anatomical correctness and sense of form in Warren's body. Like his torso and shoulder area especially looks flat and odd, but I mean, since there was at least more of a solid attempt in this one, I'll check the energy box. I don't love this background, to be honest. It just looks really flat and boring to me. I think even now, like 4 weeks later, I know that, okay, I could add some texture to the sidewalk and put some clouds and a gradient in the sky or something. That would go a long way. But I don't think I knew that at the time of making this, actually. For this one, I was really struggling with the color picking because Pen Fairy uses like pastel color palettes. And I initially, like when I first met her, thought that that was like the true color, of her OCs, and they just exist in like a pastel world. But she told me that Warren's hair is actually black, so I was like, oh dear. She said it turned out fine, so I'm gonna take her word for it. But she's also very nice, so I'm a little insecure about it. But anyway, I also realized looking at this that I forgot Ella's eye shines. So she's very matte eyes, but don't worry about it. It's just a little dry from the speed of the roller skating, you know what I mean? Next, I attacked my little sister, Extra Feathers, and after I beat her up, I drew her D&D character, Windbreaker Lightweight, because that was her only character on Artfight. Funnily enough, we were talking to our friends about our art habits, and we noticed that I rarely do any close-ups or portraits, because I prefer full bodies, which is apparently not a popular opinion. I honestly think it might have something to do with my, like, poor facial recognition, and also, like, I don't like eye contact or reading facial expressions in real life because autism, so I don't know, faces, I feel like faces just don't hold the level of interest for me that they do for other people, but, you know, like, it's important to be able to do that, to draw a portrait, right? So, I was kind of intimidated to try something, like, closer up, but, you know, with art, that means that I should try it, right? So, I have trouble drawing, like, symmetrical eyes, so Windbreaker was the perfect candidate for the close-up, since they only have one eye showing. For the record, their other eye is present and functional. The eye patch is for the emo aesthetic, you know? Windbreaker is a rogue and potion maker, so I decided to draw them making a glowing potion. I don't know what type of potion it is, maybe a filter of love, because it's pink, and they use that a lot in the campaign, and hilarity ensues. There's also the silhouette of their kind of girlfriend in there, because they think about her a lot. I kind of struggle with the bottle as well, because I wanted it to be a glass bottle, but it doesn't really look right. Like, I mean, I think it's close enough that, like, if you just kind of look at it quickly, you're like, yeah, no, that's a glass bottle. But, like, it doesn't really hold up if you look at it longer. I noted that down to work on that. Next was Amaris, who is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles OC, and she belongs to Katie May Create. I struggled so much with this anatomy because this is just so far out of my style, and I'm not very good at drawing, like, anthro characters. But I like that she had the most lore on her page, so I assume she was the favorite. And there was no rope dart in the references, so please ignore the basicness of the design. But I did get references by screenshotting rope dart videos on YouTube, because it's really hard to find good references for rope dart on Google Images or Pinterest, interestingly. So, dynamic pose, check. Admittedly, I didn't use a proper perspective grid for this, and I was just kind of eyeballing it, so it does look a bit off, but yeah, at least there's some effort put into the background with a 3-point perspective, and I didn't color pick either, so I think I got those down for this one. I think I got her plastron a little wrong, like where the pecs end. I think I did something wrong there, but hopefully it's not too noticeable. This was also fun because for the longest time I had like a vendetta against the Ninja Turtles, because buckle up. When I was a kid, I had 2 pet red-eared slider turtles that my dad bought off an old lady in Chinatown. And for the record, we're Korean, but anyway, they were my first pets, and because of them, I got into one of my very first autistic special interests, which was turtles. So I was so obsessed with turtles that every holiday I asked for encyclopedias on turtles, which unfortunately I don't think is really like a widespread thing, if it even is a thing. So I would always get ones that were just reptiles, and I was always like, I asked for turtles. But anyway, so I was super excited at first when I heard about the Ninja Turtles. And then I saw them, and for some reason, as a child, the ninja part didn't bother me. I was also fine with the mutant part and the teenage part, but the 3 fingers, 2 toes situation? Turtles have 5 digits, with some exceptions like sea turtles. And teeth? You know? Turtles don't have teeth, they have beaks. And when I found out they were supposed to be red-eared slider turtles, like my beloved pets, yeah, that was the nail in the coffin. I side-eyed them for my whole childhood. It's so ridiculous, but anyway. I do want to watch some of the cartoon stuff now that I'm older and I'm, you know, willing to overlook the digits and the teeth. I hear Rise is good. You let me know if I should watch that. And finally, we've made it to the mass attack. This one is called the Grubs Convention. It really tested my true dedication to the memes, because I did this one purely because the concept was funny, and I didn't actually look at the designs until after I had already decided to draw every character named Grubs. Because I needed to pick a name that was attainable, so like not too many characters with that name. So I wasn't gonna pick like Eve or Celeste, who are others of my characters, but that would be impossible. Like, way too difficult to organize because me and the Artfight website do not get along. At first, I wanted to do characters with my name, but there were only 2 on the entire Artfight site, so that was too few. Where are the Koreans at? I don't know. I also tried Laver, but unfortunately could only find a plethora of characters named Laverne, and couldn't find any others named Laver, actually. So that was a no-go. So I figured, okay, Grubs is generic enough that there are definitely others, but not so common that it would be, like, an unmanageable number. Like, my rule was that the character's first name had to be Grubs, but they could have any last name, and the first name had to be Grubs, not something adjacent like Grubby or, I don't know, Grubbalicious, nothing like that. So I collected all the rest into one canvas and planned out the composition. I wanted to make sure that every Grubs was visible for the class picture, you know? Honestly, there were way fewer bugs than I was expecting, and way more tail is shaped like a grub/bug but is attached to a different type of body, which I did not expect at all. Like weasel grubs with the grub tail, or humanoid grubs with the centipede tail. Like, I'm not sure if they count as furries because they don't have fur, but I was expecting more along the lines of like beetle grubs or compound eyes grubs or worm grubs, not dog grubs or raccoon grubs, of which there were 2 somehow. So it was kind of fun just to see. What would be the bug equivalent of a furry? A chitiny? Okay. Anyway, not to pick favorites, but, you know, I think the best Grubs, other than mine, of course, was definitely Grubs. But yeah, overall, I think we make a lovely Grubs convention, and I would sell you a ticket, but unfortunately, we are all sold out. Then I moved on to Lark for Mercerki. I feel like I'm saying that wrong. Apologies. Important to note, though, that the day before I started drawing him, I got my first art class on color theory, so I was actually able to come at this with some sort of strategy. Like, I really like drawing characters doing things and or with props, so I decided to draw him with his really cool magical scythe. Or I'm not sure if it's magical or, like, techie. It kind of looks like it's both, which was, like, a really cool design. So I played with a few compositions, but I like the way the blade kind of framed his face on this one. And also I felt like I was running out of time, so I picked a relatively simple one. I wasn't actually running out of time, I just, for some reason, was feeling the stress at this point. I think because I'd spent so long on the Grubs convention. But anyway, I can now recognize that Lark has an analogous color scheme, so I continued that with the reddish lighting. I couldn't really figure out what type of setting he was supposed to be from based on the profile information, like sci-fi or fantasy, or something else, something in between, I don't know. So I just put him in an incredibly dark room with his glowing scythe. So I don't get any points for the background on this one, but I nailed the body language I was trying to go for. Ominous and confident, maybe a little eager. So I'm giving myself the energy for this one. I also like how the lighting turned out, and I'm sure there are still mistakes here and there, but this is way better than my previous attempts at drawing glowy props, so I'm giving myself the check on shading as well, just for the sheer improvement, you know what I mean? Next up, Princess Josephine for Coreyberry. I don't really know Corey very well, but she's friendly, and all her characters are so hot, so I was like, let me try drawing that. Typically, in my own designs, I focus more on making characters who look like relatively average in appearance, intentionally, and like very distinct from each other rather than trying to make them look hot. So drawing people who are supposed to be physically attractive or like especially beautiful in appearance is kind of intimidating for me. In the end, I'm not sure if I really nailed that, but I think I got some fun personality in there at least. Her shoe looks horrible, not gonna lie, so maybe I get a half point for energy on this one. I was also excited to draw roses because I love drawing flowers. I am proud to say not a single one of these is copy and pasted, which is probably a waste of time, but I was having a good time. I was also a little more careful in the color scheme, aiming for more of a complementary color scheme, but since the pinks and reds were more saturated, I desaturated the green more than I normally would, and I think that made her pop a lot better. I've yet to figure out a better way to draw ground texture than just slapping a textured brush on it, but it is on the brain, don't worry. So that one, I got the half a point on the energy, got the shading, got the no color picking, got the background, all good on that one. And finally, for my last attack, I wanted to do like a little comic crossing over my zombie OCs with Storm's zombie OC, Saber. Plus, I didn't really like the attack I did for Storm, like, in the beginning, so I was like, okay, I'll do another one, why not? Saber is a really interesting zombie apocalypse character because he's a former idol trainee, first off, but he also survives the apocalypse by having other characters protect him, so he doesn't know how to fight. Now, my comic, Are We Dead Yet?, takes place a generation after the initial zombie outbreak. So the characters are from a relatively safe community, where there are, in fact, plenty of people who don't know how to fight, but my main characters are career scouts, so their job in the community is to go outside and get supplies and fight zombies, because that's where the action is, you know? And my story is also tonally a bit more dark or mature than what I think Storm is going for with hers. So I thought it'd be really funny for my, like, jaded zombie fighter OCs who were born into the apocalypse to run into Saber, who's like a somewhat goofy, like, anime-inspired teenage idol, like, for whom the apocalypse has just happened and who might have a bit more hope about his situation. Now, I've never seen any dialogue from Saber other than, like, very short speech bubbles, because Storm's story isn't written out yet, so I was kind of just going based on vibes. And Storm said his dialogue was good, so surely nailed that. Again, this is my first page of a 6-pager, so my characters show up in the following pages to help him, but since this was Artfight related, I wanted to focus it more on Saber's point of view and characterization, so I started the first page with all Saber. I think the composition turned out okay. To be honest, I didn't put too much thought into it because I was kind of in a hurry. Though I used some of the inking techniques I learned in art class and was excited to put that to use, like the emphasis lines on the first panel. They're not great, but better than they would have been in the past. The colors were really tricky because I haven't really colored like realistic looking scenes using color theory yet, other than the Josephine attack I just did. But I knew I wanted to go a little desaturated for the apocalypse look, and I wanted Saber to be the most saturated thing on the page to show that he doesn't really belong in this dimension. Initially, everything looked a little too gray because I shaded with a desaturated color, but I showed it to Storm asking what was wrong, and they told me to shade with more saturation, and it came out better. So she did kind of help with her own attack, but still. I usually show all my work to the council before posting anyway, so it wasn't anything unusual. I really like how this one turned out, though. I've drawn in inks comic pages before, but this is really my first time, like, coloring a page. Now, I wouldn't look at it and be like, oh yes, good colorist. But in keeping with my goals for this art fight, it's like a lot better than what it would have been a month ago. So that's a win. It's a win. So in conclusion, I did really well at attempting my goals for this month. And I think there was some real improvement as well. For comparison, here are my attacks from last year. First off, I organized the Grubs convention. Then for my art skill related goals, almost all of my attacks from this year had good energy, or at least an attempt at dynamism. All had relatively detailed backgrounds, all were shaded, and not just cel-shaded, but also soft-shaded, which is a new thing I picked up this year as well. And I did not color pick anything the whole month. I actually didn't know we were covering color theory a little bit in my art class this month, so actually my colors have improved even more than I had expected. Like, I was trying to just take a baby step and not color pick, but I ended up being a lot more adventurous. I also didn't explicitly plan it ahead of time, but I did step out of my comfort zone a bit with the close-up portrait and a lot of furries or chittinese. All in all, a very successful art fight for me. But also I'm very glad to move on now. Coming up next are my full Are We Dead Yet animatic to the song Hand by Annabelle Dinda, previews in the description, and after that, my report on posting on Instagram for 50 days straight. So subscribe if you're interested in either of those, and I'll see you there. Finally, before I go, I wanted to showcase the attacks that I got this year. First was my zombie trio, Eve, Caleb, and Felix from Stormith. They look so cute in her style, and I really appreciate that she catered it to my taste a bit, since I tend to like more dynamic action scenes than portraits. And I know that was a little out of their comfort zone, so I appreciate that too. Next was Laver from Katie May Create. She made his jewelry look so much better, can't lie. Then Grubs from Pen Fairy, who looks so ugly cute in her style. Grubs, not Pen Fairy. Next, another Laver from Merzuki. I love this pose and expression. Next, a portrait of Binu from Ayuna Shikyo. Unfortunately, I did not have time to revenge you, so I apologize for that, but, you know, I got a lot of joy from your attack, so thank you. And finally, Eve from Extra Feathers. This is literally so cool. Okay. Thanks, everybody, and see you next year. Maybe. I don't know.